The Minnesota Senate Committee on Rules and Administration, Subcommittee on Ethical Conduct will come back to order. It is now 12:40. We're back to wrap up on the second item on our agenda today related to the ethics complaint filed on April 10th, 2025. Members, the parties to this complaint have presented the complaint and the response to the complaint. Now, is there any more discussion? We began our discussion, but I think Senator Kunish maybe had something. She didn't get a chance to say anything earlier.
Well, we spent the morning kind of, I feel like a dog chasing its tail, especially after we just came back from the advisory hearing and heard much of the same rhetoric or the same discussion, the same arguments. And I don't feel, or I didn't hear anything new or anything different. But what I am hearing, and what I think most of us can agree on, is that there is sort of a ambiguous zone of behavior. Today we are looking specifically at violating the accepted norms of Senate behavior, and I'm sure there are plenty of senators in their career as a senator that perhaps didn't disclose every little bit or didn't think that a piece of information was going to be pertinent to a situation. And yet we continue to allow for us to advocate and work on behalf of the communities and the people that we have special interests in. We are looking at the possibility of betraying public trust, bring Senate into dishonor or disrepute, but I think it's really important to recognize the role that media plays in making or breaking an individual, not just here in the Senate, but also bringing in information that perhaps is going to influence the general public one way or the other without knowing the full bit of information. I think it's not right, and I don't think it's fair to have this subjective interpretation sort of pinned on Senator Champion. I think that's how I feel about it. And that to pin a probable cause for this unique situation is going to set a precedence that we're not prepared for yet. I think there needs to be more discussion. We have to have a broader understanding. All of the senators have to understand, once again, and again, perhaps an annual reminder of here's what we expect, here are expectations, look at your connections carefully before you bring forward any funding or policy that might be interpreted in one way or the other. We have plenty of senators that, withdraw from a vote because of the uniqueness of the vote or how it will affect their businesses or their profession or their community, and that's sort of admirable. But I think that to tie this incident to Senator Champion without having had those expectations set in a very clear, unambiguous way would be doing an injustice here today, not only to Senator Bobby Joe Champion, but also to the rest of our senators. And so I think that there's plenty of time and efforts that should be going forward to review these things once again, just as we did in the advisory hearing, and try to find that very clear outline of expectations and consequences before we, pin something like this for whatever reason on one of our unique individual senators here.
Thank you, Senator Kunish. I just wanted to add something. So if a member asked to be excused on the floor from voting because of a conflict of interest. And I know Senator Miller has done that, and I believe Senator Lang may have done it, or Senator, I can't remember who else might have done it recently. We have to all vote to excuse them. So if they wanted to be excused because of a relationship they had through their, or an involvement they had, not even a relationship, just an involvement they had with their community or a line of work or line of business. For example, Senator Kunesh, you're a teacher or a librarian, and if we're voting to fund, libraries, and you ask to be excused, I would say no, because that is not, it needs to be, I think, very narrow in order to be excused. We're all expected to be voting here. We're under call many times on the floor, and we're expected to vote. And if we started looking at every potential angle, which is why I used that unfortunate SF phrase, SS phrase. F must be in my mind or something. Then who would vote on the floor? So, our obligation is to vote here. Anyway, we're getting far off field here, but any more comments from anyone? Senator Matthews. All right, ready?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I'll just add on it. First off, yes, media can play a role in the narrative. I'm glad that's getting realized here. That's a regular occurrence to my side of the aisle, where we often have complaints about that. And I want to draw one final distinction. We're not talking about any type of any connection broadly or even policy, and I think there's been a confusion between policy changes to specific taxpayer funding towards one particular entity. It's well accepted if you're a teacher and you run into something in the school and this policy should not be the way we teach our kids, let's go fight to change that policy. Nobody here is claiming there's any problem with that. Or if you're a police officer and you're like, here's a public safety policy we should change, or even scrap guy policies necessarily. We're getting at when there is a specific, this case is all about a specific funding request of taxpayer dollars towards one entity that wasn't just a relationship in the community, said hi or knew someone or did something. This is a specific legal client. That's where we are getting at. That's why when we looked over at the last hearing and we had that large discussion about 56.4 and statute 10A.07 about what the current statutory phrase is of financial conflicts of interest, that's why all four of us pretty clearly and unanimously said there's no financial conflict of interest under those provisions, given the record that we have in front of us. For that same reason, we're not in 56.4 land anymore or 10A.07 land. We're on 56.1 and 56.3, which state members must adhere to the highest standard of ethical conduct as embodied in the Minnesota Constitution, state law, and these rules. We are to set ourselves to a higher standard than the general public based on the position that we've been entrusted with. And 56.3, improper conduct includes conduct that violates a rule or administrative policy of the Senate, that violates accepted norms of Senate behavior, that betrays the public trust, or that tends to bring the Senate into dishonor or disrepute. And I would make the same observation and recommendation to a member of either party. If there was a bill that was directly appropriating taxpayer dollars towards one of their own legal clients or someone in a special relationship that's at that level. And so my motion today, Madam Chair, is I move that the Subcommittee on Ethical Conduct find a violation of Senate Rule 56.3 that Senator Champion betrayed the public trust by not disclosing his relationships with his legal clients in authoring Senate File 2970 in the 2023 session and Senate File 2978 in the current session.
All right, Ms. Stengel will repeat the motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Matthews moves that the Subcommittee on Ethical Conduct find a violation of Senate Rule 56.3 and that Senator Champion betrayed the public trust by not disclosing his relationship with his legal client when authoring Senate File 2970 in the 2023 legislative session and Senate File 2978 in the current session.
Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Nay. The motion fails. Senator Kunish.
Thank you, Senator Pappas. I would like to propose a motion of no probable cause. I move that the subcommittee find that there is no probable cause to believe that improper conduct has occurred and that the complaint be dismissed.
Everyone understand the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. The motion fails. It's been recommended that we also vote on the other three options. One more option, and that's this one. I'm not quite. Senator Miller then moves that there is probable cause to believe conduct outlined in the complaint has violated Senate rules, and the subcommittee proceed with an investigation. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. No. Nay. Motion fails. And then we have another motion. Senator Miller moves that there is probable cause, and we should, the subcommittee should defer further action until a date to be determined. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. No. Motion fails. All right. There's no further motions that need to be made. Any further discussion? And hearing none, this committee is adjourned.